Right now, though, he helped make PCs safer by testing firewalls with Shields Up, and he was one of the first folks to sound the alarm over spyware, but it's a legendary hard drive utility called SpinRite that pays his bills, and Steve Gibson's just given it a major update. Joining us, GRC founder Steve Gibson, to give us a tour of this longtime TSS fave utility. Welcome back, Steve.
Thanks, Patrick.
You are... It's funny, a lot of people have no idea that you write a software utility to maintain and do data recovery on hard drives.
That's what's paid all the bills for 16 years. All the free stuff, Shields Up and the freeware, the security stuff, has all been paid for by the sales of SpinRite.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about SpinRite so we can, try to make you some money.
Well, the big news
so you
is...
can keep finding scary stuff for us.
Well, exactly. That way I can, keep looking out for stuff. The big news is that SpinRite is now compatible with NTFS file systems. It used to be a FAT-only file system because that's all there was in the old days. And it runs on Linux. You could even run it on your TiVo hard drive if you took the drive out and stuck it in a PC or on a Mac drive.
So, in older versions of it, it was FAT32, which is essentially a Windows thing. NTFS is the latest version of the Windows hard drive. So this is pretty... If you run Windows XP and you have NTFS, which you should, SpinRite is ready to now handle that.
Well, yeah. Its major feature is data recovery when drives are going on the fritz or long-term maintenance. Now, most people don't buy something just because they want to check to see if their drives are happy.
Right.
They buy it because they're in trouble. They've got data that they have to recover that's in danger.
Well, let's show this right now. There's something new. You launched SpinRite. It's actually a Windows executable.
It's actually Windows and DOS both. It's one file. I write everything in assembly language. This thing is 170K. It's got a Windows side and a DOS program, and even includes FreeDOS, a FreeDOS clone operating system, all bundled into one. So from Windows, you're able to create a boot diskette or an ISO image that you would burn to a CD-ROM to make your own bootable CD.
Which uses FreeDOS? Or?
Which uses FreeDOS.
Cool.
So it bundles the whole thing in, just makes it just boot for you with no trouble at all. Or you could install it like on a little USB flash drive and carry that around and stick it into a computer and just boot it.
Let's take a look at actually what's going on here. We've launched it. It's in DOS mode. You know what I love? The fact obviously it's recognizing everything on the left side of the screen, but actually show the smart data analysis, because it's almost impossible to find anything that gives any useful out of smart hard drive analysis.
Well, that's true. In fact, SpinRite goes further than anything has before. I've chosen the NTFS drive here. I have a 300 gig hard drive and about a 100 gig NTFS partition. So we'll start SpinRite going, and it picked up where it left off when we were using it before. So now it's scanning this 100 gig hard drive. It probably takes about an hour to do that. It does about 2 gigs a minute, and it shows you exactly what's going on inside your drive. This display shows the smart data which is being returned by the drive. It used to be in the old days that error correction was only used in like an emergency. If a sector didn't read back perfectly, then the drive would use this ECC to figure out what the data originally was written, even if it couldn't get it back. But with the density skyrocketing, as they have recently, error correction is now being used all the time. In fact, just since we've been running it, we have, as you can see, 905 errors have been corrected during the reading back.
And a few minutes ago when we had it launched before we did the segment, it was up to like 11,000.
And it'll keep counting up as we go.
And it's funny. So drives are getting larger, areal density is getting higher, the space the bits take up on the magnetic surface is smaller.
Incredibly small.
So everything's a little sketchier at this point.
Well, exactly, and that's the reason that we continue to sell this, is people do have problems with hard drives, and you can turn a drive over to some data recovery facility
and spend $2,500.
It's seriously expensive. Or SpinRite for $89 will do it for you.
Let's take a look at how you actually, what happens when you're trying to recover. A hard drive crashes, you boot it, you boot into a system, or you load a system with SpinRite to analyze the disk. What's actually going on right here when you're doing the Dynastat data recovery?
The idea is that normally when a sector cannot be read, it's just a small portion of 4,096 bits. A sector has 512 bytes, which is 4,096 bits. But if like 20 or 30 can't be read, the rest probably still can be.
Okay.
And sometimes just by trying harder, or in fact what SpinRite does is it'll go to a different sector and literally fly back to the target sector from different distances.
Really?
So it arrives at different velocities, and that ends up putting the head in a different location. SpinRite tries really hard to get your data back, and we hear all the time these data recovery miracles from people talking about how they had some major fire catastrophe, the house burned down, but they had data they had to get off of their hard drive on their computer. So they ran SpinRite on it, and it may take a couple hours or a couple days, but often it gets it back.
We like
so
that
it really
thought.
does recover it.
You talk about there's also maintenance. This is something that's far beyond like scan disk or disk defragmenting.
Yeah. In fact, ScanDisk will, and even just NT will give up way too easily and just say, well, we couldn't get your data back, so sorry. Yeah. SpinRite tries and tries and tries until it really does recover it. And there's nothing else like it in the industry.
Will it save it to another hard drive? Do you recommend pulling it out of the meter? Do you recommend copying the hard drive? Or obviously, in a lot of cases, you can't copy the hard drive.
Well, in fact, it does save it in place. In the old days, sectors like bad sectors would be marked in the file system as being bad. Now, all modern hard drives have a pool of spare sectors, which they can bring into play and swap out a defective sector. SpinRite keeps it from doing that until it's recovered the data. Then it says, okay, here's a bad sector, swap in a spare, then SpinRite writes the data that it recovered back onto a new good replacement sector, so it just fixes the drive for you.
We like that thought.
That's great.
Only place to get SpinRite is at grc.com.
grc.com.
What's it cost?
$89, and we have upgrades. People, right now, it's been on the market for about 3 weeks. People are just about evenly buying it new and upgrading SpinRite 5. So people who've had it are wanting to stay current and getting 6.
We like that thought. Steve, you do amazing stuff for us.
Always
Thank
a pleasure.
you so much. grc.com is, well, if you want a copy of SpinRite or check Steve's other cool software.